We're good to go.
The Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall. Roll call.
Holly.
Here.
Buckminster. Here. Rod.
Here.
Wisdom. Here. Ferguson.
Here.
Ratcliffe.
Here.
Foraker. Here. Layton. Here. Mr. President.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mayor's report, I'd just like to thank the firemen for having me and my wife go out to supper with them at their annual banquet the other night. Thank you, John. You're welcome. City administrator's report.
Yeah, it's got a few things, little updates. Incumbents in Ward 1, 2, and 3 did not file, so we have, we'll have, I guess, 3 new positions for sure coming in at some point in time. So those are open. I think there's been a few filings completed, but we still have some March 1 for anybody that wants to try a spot for city council. The housing board met and kind of reviewed the rural workforce housing fund options. We kind of got to a determination of a path moving forward so we can access those funds and get a full application in. So we should see that here relatively soon. That'll come before council to review the application and get it submitted to the NDD for that, or to send for that. Julie Bauman's got the audits pretty much completed up. They're doing our single audit review right now since we had federal expenditures that exceeded $750,000. So that takes a little longer to get that done. They're planning to present that at the March 4th meeting, or I think it's March 4th, first meeting in March. And we got notification actually today that NDD opened the application to access the LB 977 funds, which is the $15 million allotments. That is out for a very short window of time to get a full application in. It's due by March 18th by 5 p.m. So we will see what we can do to get the rest of that, get that application pulled together so we can get something presented for council on the 4th. If we can't get everything done, we may need to have a special meeting in there because our meeting's March 18th at 6 p.m., which is no good. We have to be submitted by 5 p.m. So we'll see what we get done with that. Lucas, Trevor, and I meet tomorrow to kind of compile that and see what we need to get done with those commitment letters and quite a few other components that need to go to that to prove to pull that money from that site, building the site from the state. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Chief, you got anything?
We're just going to be hosting the National Night Out again this year, August 6th, 5 to 8 out at the Aquatic Center. So free swimming for the families and a meal.
Thank you. Under the consent agenda, we have minutes approved for February 5th, 2024. Agenda approval, claims approval for February 3rd to February 16th, and the consent agenda.
By Robin Ankram's request, I'd like to strike number 4. She'll come back at another time.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Call
Who made that motion?
I did.
Bird,
It's amended to delete item 4.
to table it for the next meeting.
Well, let's just delete it from the agenda. She can always bring it back.
Okay.
We'll just strike it.
All right, who was my second there?
Layton.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, 8 yeas.
There's no old business, so we'll move to regular business, discussion and action. Review and approval of projects 9 and 18 for the 2020 owner occupied rehabilitation program as recommended by the housing board.
All right, so this is the So that 2020 OR grant, they got 2 more projects that passed the criteria to get to the stage of bidding those out. Housing Board did their review, but they needed council official approval to move forward with those projects and get those allocated to that grant. Once that's done, Cindy will do their thing and get it all contracted out and paid out. We have to August, I believe 17th is the deadline to complete that grant and have it fully expended. I think that puts us at, I think, around 15 projects, if I remember correctly, and we had, I think, 18 overall planned for it. So, on track to get that done.
Motion to approve.
All right, we'll do Holly.
Second.
I'll vote.
8 yeas.
Number 2, discussion and action, resolution for establishment of an ad hoc committee for the Ridley Theater project.
All right, where do you want to
Go ahead.
talk about it? You want me to talk about it? So I've drafted a resolution. There's, the mayor's put together kind of a group to take a look at the Ridley Theater. We presented a letter to Mitch Glazer, who accepted a potential offer to sell the building at $25,000 if it's get utilized back to that historic use. So this would create the ad hoc committee to oversee that piece, get the planning, some planning pieces going, implementation, and how to manage that facility for community development and to get that component done. So the resolution drafts up essentially to create the committee for that sole purpose. And then the responsibilities of that committee would be, develop a comprehensive plan for the rehab of the building, identify funding sources to utilize to get through the project, develop a strategy for the operation and management of the venue, and any other tasks that, come up with that would need to be for successful completion. That's kind of how we drafted that up. So you have an item after this, potential appointments to go on that, but this resolution would then at least create that committee to move something forward with. So it's not necessarily purchasing the property or anything like that. It built the committee to work through that so then that committee could present to council how to get that done.
This may not apply to the actual committee, but where was the 25,000 selling point? Is that a property evaluation or just the number that was offered?
That was a number that was provided by Mitch, essentially what he has in the building for the roof and the improvements that he put on it, just to keep it as is.
We could put 18,000 in the roof.
Okay.
We tried to get him to donate it, but
Well, I knew that was mentioned before, that it was a donated property.
we
but-
tried, but
Okay,
he's broke, he needs some money. So
that's right. I was just curious where the 25,000 number came from.
That from him.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the establishment of an ad hoc committee.
Second.
I'll vote.
8 yeas.
And as far as on the street and phone calls, I've had 100% a go on this from the public. So, thank you. Number 3, discussion and action. Appointment of Stephanie Lippis, Jenny Dunn, Christy Simon, Alicia Sutton, Linda Von Baron, Lisa Hunsinger, and Pam Harkendorf to the Ridley Theater Rehabilitation Committee.
Yeah, Pam will be added on that. I didn't have her on that original list. So I added that on to my deal. That's why I wanted to make sure you guys see your agendas and it's not on that list that's on there now. The resolution just passed, goes up to 10 members, essentially. So I think we have, 7 here? Or 8?
We did. Brian, you never got the paperwork back, but is it too late to put him on it if he's still?
I was gonna say, I don't think she's filled the paperwork out yet, but I think she's still,
Yeah, we don't need
she's
the
still
paperwork.
planned on it.
We just need your
Okay.
yes or no.
Um,
Sure. That's too late. now, is it, or is it?
No, because we haven't made motions.
Technically, it
Yeah.
can be added on.
Do you want to run for first ward city councilman too? Are you
Nice
serious?
try.
Sorry, you got a couple weeks. So are we adding Brian or Nikki? Or what, who's the?
They both requested. you know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That'd be great. Choo choo.
So-
You got railroaded.
So Brian and Nikki.
Close.
Good? Yeah. All right,
I'll make a motion to approve that roster.
okay. All right. Want to take a vote?
So that's-
We have them.
I didn't
8
hear the
days.
second, I'm sorry.
Well, I was being quiet for the first time ever.
We'll bypass number 4 and go to 5, discussion and action. Resolution for establishment of a Fall City Recreation and Wellness Center ad hoc committee.
Oh, yeah, so I did kind of the same thing. We've had, through the feasibility study that we did with the planning grant through the civic money, we kind of established or developed what would be stakeholders or potentially for a rec center or wellness center. We never really formalized a committee to move forward with that direction and steer that into those next steps. So this would be kind of, I guess, formalizing that committee to take it on to the next steps, whether that's the concept design components that was presented within the study at Pritchard Auditorium or some other path, completely some other path. But this would get that committee set in place where they can start having things getting done, get discussions made, and can facilitate that to bring something back to council. So this resolution does have, based on I wrote up the individuals that were tied with that through the stakeholder components, up to 20 members for that. Got the schools, you got Fall City Rec, we got the Chamber, we got Edge, CMC, Rotary, JC, Sixpence, Fall City Park Board, Councilmember Layden and Buckminster, which were originally brought into that group. And then Pam Harkendorf also, as First Lady of Fall City, and that leaves 3 spots then to fill into that. Now we could add more, do less. That's however we want to do something there. Any questions, I guess? Kind of the same duties as what would happen with the Rivoli Theater, is to steer that through and see if there's something that's viable. Starting to get some of that negative feedback of reuse concept at Pritchard Auditorium. If that's a different path that needs to be taken, at least that's, you can do that and figure out a plan of how to readdress the public and see what that path needs to be.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Call vote.
So 7 yeas, 1 nay.
There's 3 more spots on here. Brian, if you want to, while we're on a roll here.
One's enough, thank you.
Number 6, discussion and action. Execute professional service agreement with HOA Solutions to provide for SCAD control system upgrade for the water system as recommended by the Board of Public Works, Trevor Campbell, Public Works Director.
So, good evening, guys. This is a project that I identified pretty much in my first few weeks here being in town, the Public Works Director. There is some communications issues that we have that basically control town's water supply, and I've learned that there's periods of time where we're running that in hand or manual, which we're relying on night shift operators at the power plant to make sure that our water tower stays filled up, which is good. We haven't had any issues, knock on wood, but it's not the most reliable method. There's technology that you can utilize and we do utilize it, but the technology is dated. We have telemetry or a radio signal system, And then we have a pressure transducer in the base of the water tower that basically gives the plant signal level of water tower, so you can maintain a level in the tower, so you maintain water pressure for our customers. Ultimately, one thing that there's no excuse for is not going to provide a reliable source of water for our citizens, and it's nerving to me to see that there's scenarios that come up where, oh crap, we got to run the water system in manual. You hope you catch that, you know. You drain that water tower down and the cost of this project is going to be very small. This is $185,000 sole source proposal to HOA, who's kind of the premier controls consulting firm and installer. They have engineering and installation techs in-house. So the intent of this scope of work is to utilize them to help design the communications network, more or less, the controls involved for the pumps, in our wells, and you kind of look through the scope of work of what they got laid out here, but it ultimately controls everything from the wells to the water treatment facility. The water goes to the power plant and then is dispatched from there out of clear wells and maintains level on the water tower. And it's all through a bunch of pumps and some different systems. And you got your chlorine and fluoride systems in there as well, that will be controlled by this. So ultimately, like I say, this is for the engineering and implementation. They will help identify what the scope of work is. It's a design build process. So they'll come out in the field and help us figure out exactly what the scope is. That's kind of, if you see in there a wish list item, that's more or less means design build. So we can establish true costs of construction once we go through our systems, and then they'll come out with a list of specifications that will, for procuring the materials, that we'll put out to bid, and we'll come back to the board and then get those items bought, and then HOA will help to do the implementation. So that's
So
kind of a
currently,
nutshell.
we're running on a manual. So
Not currently, but there's times of the year, which is odd, that our radio signals through telemetry, our water treatment plant in Rulo communicates with our water tower via telemetry, and randomly that will fall out. There's workarounds. We have a pressure transducer that you can control the level of the tower with, but to do that, you have to go up and physically watch the gauge. You got to compare it to your chart, make sure that this pressure correlates to this level in the tower, and oh crap, we need to go kick the pumps on. And then once you get the pressure back up, go kick the pumps off, and then you got to have someone to go up to the tower to read the gauge, go back down to the power plant, kick the pump on or off, and like I say, it works. It's just not what I would suggest as a municipal water system, a way to maintain our pressure in our system, because there's chance for human error in that, and it's not good. Especially, night shift. You have guys at night shift that on our power plant, that's one of their duties at night, is a couple of times a night, usually around 9 or 10 and about 2 or 3 in the morning, to kick the pumps on to maintain the level in the tower. So we currently have a SCADA system. It was installed back in the 90s, just like a computer, which it is a computer. These components need updated. It's kind of a multifaceted project. I identified a lack in our system that can be easily picked up through an upgrade with our control system for our town's water, and it will be extremely better than what it is. It's one of those things that's out of sight, out of mind until you don't have water at your tap line. You're gonna be,
We can't fix the current system, that we cannot get parts for the current system.
I've personally dealt with SCADA systems down in Kansas, at a water treatment plant. And it does provide a lot of benefits, because they call me when it's not working and they are in manual mode. And a lot of times even manual mode isn't the best. So, I mean, from a technology standpoint, I've looked through it. I support it, just knowing, the downfalls of when the systems don't work.
This was in your capital improvement plan to come through this year, was the SCADA system as far as.
yeah, so right now, we're on track to be within budget on this project. You know, like I said, this is the first piece. These guys are the guys that hit a lot of the municipalities across the state of Nebraska. They were out of Lincoln, they got local support, they have really good techs, there's a lot of experience. They put their references for their most recent municipalities that they've done upgrades for. So, you know, there's nothing but, you can hear mixed things. They had some turnover there for a minute, but the owner of the company, you know, I addressed those concerns, and there's Rumorville, you know, that's why I made sure he provided me some references, and ultimately he came out to site already, and we walked our whole system, and that's how we identified the scope that's necessary. There's just a lot more hand over fist that has to happen to get in the weeds and figure out what components are actually necessary, back to that design build piece. There's a lot of field work that has to occur to develop the engineer plans and the specs for identifying what technology we need to. It'll be all Allen Bradley devices that we will be putting in. That's kind of like Allen Bradley's equivalent of iPhone versus, Android, so to speak.
So one thing I don't think I did notice on here is that with the telemetry communications, if you do kind of phase that out, then my concern would be is to make sure there's a failover for the.
There will be redundancy in the system. That's one of the main.
So is that through the fiber with
CC
SNC?
fiber with
Or-
SNC.
Okay,
Correct.
as long as there's some failover with connectivity.
And that was one of the very first things was, why are we not hooked up to fiber?
Yeah.
I mean, you need to capitalize on that. I've already talked to SNC about that. They're aware. Fiber runs right by the water tower, so we can connect. It's not an issue.
But
And
would you
then
maintain telemetry as, like a third connection point, or is it just gonna be taken out?
that's something that I want to look at, because we have to have redundancy, because obviously fiber can,
Yeah, fiber will go down.
Fiber
right?
can go
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
So-
For all sorts of reasons.
so that's something that will be looked at. There will be a fail-safe. There has to be in this regard. And, I don't believe we have redundant pressure transducers in our tower. That's a place of redundancy that we need to have. If you have one transmitter go down, well, you need to be able to verify truly what you have. Especially, you make it smarter, you need to make sure you have some redundancy in your instrumentation as
Exactly.
well. So that's, back to the design build piece, that's all those things we're gonna work through to make sure we check all those boxes, because it is there's no excuse for us not being able to provide reliable water to town. And, you can go without power, you can't go without water. So that's priority one, is making sure we have reliable supply of water to our customers. And of course, we have plenty of other business to deal with too, but
On your plans there, that's great, you're working on the top. Is there any plans for water lines or anything through the community in the future here?
yeah, we have, well, I've had multiple,
I should hit up, that's why I just thought I'd ask you. I mean, this is number one question, seems like our infrastructure, so we're here, so I just thought I'd ask.
sure. I mean, I've had multiple conversations with Miller and Associates, kind of our go-to civil engineer as far as our infrastructure, underground infrastructure goes, particularly water and wastewater. I've had multiple conversations with them. This is not just a Fall City issue. This is a Nebraska issue. This is a United States issue. That's why feds have pushed down through all that infrastructure funding, so we got to set ourselves up to be able to capitalize on on that grant funding. There's money out there. You have to have, ultimately you need to have shovel-ready projects in place to be able to capitalize, get grant funding to capitalize, and make the necessary improvements, or you figure out how to sustain it in-house, which is more of the angle that Anthony and I have been working on. I mean, everyone knows that our line crew is the water crew in town. So one of the goals is to ultimately end up with a water crew, so we can start actually replacing water mains. You know, there's a lot of strategy and logistics to go with how we do that and make sure it's a successful project going forward.
Take some relief off the utility guys.
But, you know, because obviously we have electrical issues in town that need addressed, and we can't just keep putting out fires. It's time to start making some real improvements to infrastructure, and those conversations are happening every single day. So it's just not gonna happen overnight. You know, I'm hoping in the next, I like to think in the next 6 months to a year, we're headed in the right direction as far as making some real notable improvements. This is step one to all of
It's great
this.
stuff, yeah.
You free up.
We're in those first phases. I mean, 2020 was the first phase for sewer rehab. Then it went over to the force main, you know, as we started having issues with the force main, dealing with that on the sewer side. Water's next step, plant, we gotta get upgrades in. We gotta worry about distribution lines. Electric, we have, you know, our 5 phases for that, and we got our 8 to 10 phases for streets. But we're gonna have to really dive down into that, having some more capital planning that really hasn't been, I think, presented well with the city. Was really how many projects there are there, identify what priority they are, what funding sources are out there, and how to get them to that point where Trevor talked about that shovel-ready piece. Because a lot of times it's a little pot of money for this, okay, but you gotta have it ready to go and submit.
Which means you're paying to have engineers give you a set of plans that are ready to build, and you just need the construction money. The money's out there, you gotta be in the right place at the right time and be prepared for it, and that's what we're working towards. We will be there here in short order. It's just gonna take a little time to get prepared.
And I think we gotta let the citizens know one thing, stuff takes time, and we passed that sales tax here, probably coming up on 2 years, and there hasn't been a thing changed in downtown, but yet I know stuff's coming because, for example, they're gonna be staging up the Fall City Rec grounds, all that stuff. Stuff takes time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, we live in a microwave culture, but this is a crock pot. It's gonna
Well, and
take
then
time to get
I
done.
hate to even bring up the word COVID, but that threw up a whole monkey wrench into ultimately that project because of the delay in transformers. We're still waiting on transformers for that project.
Your supply chain, nobody realized when that broke, it took forever to get it back.
Everyone learned that they could build to order rather than having the burden of inventory. And that's the life we live now.
There's stuff that's like being done down there, we probably, I guess,
Yeah.
put more information out, like the PDC works foundations are in, that PDC is gonna be delivered here in hopefully here in March.
Yeah.
So that stage down there will be done, and then the rest of that tie on onto that. So we have pieces that are getting completed.
But for the average citizen, if they're not
Yeah.
seeing the power lines coming down and being
Yeah.
buried, they're saying,
Yeah.
dang it, nothing's getting done. And there's a lot getting done.
It's gonna get
Yeah.
real
We
busy
gotta give
about
the city
14th
credit
Street,
where
when we
credit's
start
due.
tearing up streets on 14th Street, and then you start going up alleys.
Well, and that's why I
Don't
think.
brag on ourselves.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think that's really where we just really need to focus on, kind of what I said, the redundant communications. They did list out the backups, the cybersecurity. We don't want to set ourselves, up for a position like the generators where we have a lot of good things going, but we still find ourselves behind the 8 ball because something fails, and then they're like, well, why don't we have water? We just dumped a couple $100,000 into this
Exactly.
new system, and a $20 part shut us down. So I'm cool with it, but I just from a tech standpoint, really want to see that presented and how that's laid out, but I'd make a motion to approve it.
Well, that scope will be developed as they go along and taking the Board of Public Works.
Yep.
But might be good to have, you maybe jump in on some of those meetings as they start developing that scope.
That or
Take a
the
look at it.
city IT, you know, that gentleman can handle it as well, but just as long as that's where we're gonna find a failure, and have the upset citizens is if we have a tech fail and it shuts the water down or we're back to medium mode. That's just not necessary.
Yeah, and that's, you know, with the whole intent of this is to identify those issues. I mean, these are not new, this isn't new language to me. You know, I've dealt with it on a much grander scale, you know, working for a power plant facility. And then, of course, this is normal at our size municipalities and larger and even small municipalities use systems like this. It's all, you walk away from it because they can't afford to have the operators. So it's all automated. Of course, there's a risk. There's obviously a risk with that, and you try to cover that with a calculated redundancy because you know you have to consider your budget as well. But there has to be a level of redundancy, and there will be redundancy, and
you'll have the reports. I mean, that's all the automated reporting and.
and that's the thing is you can trend your pumps, you can run your systems more efficient. And I wanted to add too that this is not like something I'm gonna come back to you in another 5 years and say, hey, we need to do this again. This is a 20-year fix, you know. So we're looking at $300,000-$400,000 project. This is for the next 20 years. We got 20, 30 years out of our last system. You know, there's no reason we shouldn't. Nowadays they're saying 15 to 20 years out of these types of systems. Everything's built to fail at some point, you know, with the electronics, but this is for the long haul, you know.
Did
So
they get the new generator? Is it running yet or?
spent all afternoon down there. We got it running for 10 minutes. We're gonna try to put it online tomorrow. We had to talk with OPPD and make sure we get it scheduled and we're working through some kinks on that engine.
And that's what, yeah, that's exactly, I didn't know if it was all fixed or not yet.
No, I will not pull your leg, it's not fixed. There's some stuff that needs to be addressed. And Board of Public Works gave me some leeway to work with the OEM on that and get them on site to try to identify some issues that have been in place for some time, so.
It's not doing any good if it ain't working.
No, it's a $13 million paperwork right now.
Yes, just to keep on track, with the item at hand, I made a motion to approve this as.
Anybody else second? I can. I will.
Good.
All vote. Thank you.
8 years.
Thanks, Travis.
Water tower.